Martyr's biopic where there is a scene that the protagonist, Lakshmi Bai, she goes and she saves a calf. So my crew had a huge discussion. We halted the shoot and we were like, she can't save a calf. It has to be a lamb because we don't want to look like cow savers. So my point is that when such a prejudice strikes, as a person you feel very protective of who you are and what your values are, and you want to save all the animals. Why just cow? But you definitely want to save the cow for sure, because the prejudice is really agonizing. But a cow lynching lynching for cow takes place, and you look like an idiot. And then you jump to the other side, which has been always criticizing and never wanting to be protecting cows. And you're like, these people look sensible, and these are so-called liberals. And now liberals, by definition, because I've learned English now just recently, so I have to access to dictionary for everything. So by the literal meaning, dictionary meaning of liberal is people who have acceptance for people, opinions, thoughts.
No, they're fanatics.
No, that's what I'm saying. Now, let me finish this question. So these liberals, they will not take you in their group unless you hate the same people as they do. So one thing, it's fine if this is for the betterment of the country. You don't mind hating on BJP. You don't mind believing that everything that is being done by, like literally Amit Shah is practically doing. That's fine. But what is... No, but what I don't get is, this I get. What I don't get is, what is their agenda and plan of action for bringing this country out of the pit? What is that they're doing? So when a war breaks, liberals are the first one to say, for my industry, people say, why should we be bothered with war? We are artists. To demotivating an army man who's protecting the borders for you. A rape takes place in Kashmir and they say, Hindustan raped our daughter. To be pointing fingers at each other when the country is so vulnerable. And trying to break a civil war? Is that what liberals do? And you're like, wait a minute, the most sensible thing seems like to be a skeptic. But a skeptic is nothing but a space cadet. Doesn't know where he's going. So right now, we need a definite direction to go into. We cannot be stuck in the unfortunate loop of to be or not to be, to be or not to be. So what to do?
Wow. Well, for a long time, from that city that you were talking about, they always thought asking this question, to be or not to be, is the most intelligent thing to do. There. Because they rarely came to existential questions. Existential questions is a daily affair for us in this country, but they rarely came to it. So that is how rudimentary ways they addressed it. They thought it's the most intelligent question to ask, to be or not to be. I think it's the dumbest question to ask, because you have not tasted life. When you are really blissed out and ecstatic, do you ask to be or not to be? In some way you're frustrated, some way you're burdened, so you're asking to be or not to be. Leave that aside, that's the thing. First of all, today in the world, people who claim to be liberals are actually fanatics. If you do not agree with them, they'll finish you in some way. So, about Jhansi Rani saving the cow. Well, she's a woman who stands out in our history, and you're just fortunate that you…
But she did save a cow. I'm like, listen guys, rather than fighting, why don't you access the facts? They're like, she did save a cow, but we should not show it as a cow.
See, the thing is, we don't know who wrote the story. She didn't save one cow. Cows would have always been saved because in this country, which is a pastoral country, cow and cattle was the wealth of this nation. If you look back at Mahabharata, they're not talking about land as wealth. They're always talking about cattle as wealth, because land was there plenty. Cattle, how many thousand head of cattle did you own, decided how rich you are. So if somebody stole a cow, they caught you and beat you up. all right?
Yeah, that's how it is in back home as well. Like I come from a village and sometimes the
So,
only thing that
I'm
they
saying
have
this whole lynching debate that's going on in the country, these people who are talking about it have not seen India. They've not seen India at all. They're just living in cities and television studios and endlessly talking about these things. Let me say this clearly. I have always been connected with rural life. In my life, I have witnessed 3 lynchings. Okay, I witnessed. In 2, they were killed, in the other one, nearly killed. For what? One was because they believed this man could be stealing their children. People lynch, even recently it happened. If you steal their children, if you steal their cows, if you cut a tree and take it from his farm, these are 3 things for lynchings will happen. I've seen all 3 varieties. I tried to get into it and stop this. They said, you don't get into it, and pushed me aside. I knew the local sub-inspector who was a senior in my college. So I went to him and said, you need to do something. These guys just killed the guy and buried him right there in the village. The entire village knows and nothing. He said, you don't get into this. I said, why? He said, see, this is how it is. They have their own law. I am a police officer, I enforce a certain aspect of the law. Rest of the law is handled by them in their own terms. So actually, this is a crowd, because there is no actual total law enforcement in the country. Slowly it is coming, but it has not been there for a long time. People manage their own things.
But Sadhguru, there's a lot of other atrocities, like for example…
No, there are, but let me finish this, because this is a big issue in the country today. So I'm not trying to prove this is the way to do it. All I'm saying is, when mob tries to enforce justice, their idea of justice, this is how it gets enforced. Unfortunately, that's where we are. We need to understand that's where we are. If we want to change this, there are many things we need to do, not going on pointing about somebody saved a cow. Well, when people thought they're child lifters and they killed them, why did you start a debate about that? Because if you start a debate about don't save your children, then you will get it back, all right? Cow is an easy thing right now to go at. So this is not about cows, this is not about whatever is precious to them. If they believe somebody is taking it, they can't call the police. Because if they call the police, they'll come after 24 hours. And if they come, there are so many issues. It doesn't directly get settled. So people have their own way of settling. Unfortunately, it is going into a place where people are being killed on the street. It should not go there, means law enforcement needs to come on all levels of life. Law enforcement has not reached the entire geography of this nation. Let's get to that. We need to do that.
Sadhguru, I am a Rajput myself, and when the whole Padmavat episode took place and, cutting one of my contemporaries' nose, I was embarrassed. And also when the rape took place in Kashmir, to be pointing out things like…
This wouldn't disturb anybody if it was Hollywood. Because a lot of them have cut their noses off and replaced.
But the criminals are not
Yes,
religions. Criminals cannot be associated with religion. That is just simply trying to
I don't think
instigate…
that was about religion at all. Anyway, that whole movement was not against religion. There are many political aspects to it. When this was happening in full flare, the Padmavat issue, and Prasun is here, so when they were burning buses, then I called somebody, a very responsible person in the country, and said, what is this? How are we allowing this to happen? If you don't like a movie, don't go. I don't go to the movies. So, if you don't like it, you don't go. Why do you have to burn a bus that people have to use tomorrow morning? They said, Sadhguru, they have all dressed up on 100 women like brides, and they're sitting ready to burn by themselves, volunteers to burn. Today, if we handle them rough on the street, tomorrow if these 100 women, even if 10 of them burn themselves, it'll become an international issue. So let the buses burn for 1 or 2 days, then we will deal with it. I thought this is a strange kind of wisdom, but it is wisdom.
Okay.
So we need to understand this, instead of giving commentaries because somebody went to Western universities and came back giving that kind of commentary in this country without understanding the realities. No. There are unfortunate realities of various kinds of divisions that people are trying to play up. When they don't get any voice to say something, they will gather one caste together, they will gather one community together or gather one group of language people together or religion together and do something on the street to get attention. The unfortunate way that this become a culture to get attention is burn the bus. People, tomorrow morning they'll have to walk to their place of work, but burn the bus and get attention. In every other country, if they want to protest, they burn old tires. I think our people don't know how to take the tires out, so they're burning the entire bus.
Shariram surupam yatha va kalatram yashascharu chitram dhanam merutulyam gurorangri padme manaschena lagnam tatakim 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 kalatram dhanam pur